Down the Barrel Podcast with Jimmy, Dino, and Jared. We have Jared finally back in the studio with us again.
Mm-hmm. What up?
So, yeah, he's been on a hiatus for, I think, just an episode.
Yeah, I think just an episode. So,
but today we're going to be talking about, there's been a lot of buzz around, for 2026 and the Minnesota gun bills, Second Amendment stuff coming up. I know MDHA has been getting a lot of stuff on social media and everything like that. So that's why it's good to have him here to talk about all the MDHA stuff. And yeah, then we're just going to kind of cover what some of the bills are and go from there. So,
yeah, and how they might affect hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah. What that means and what it is, and try our best to decipher what we know.
Yeah. You want the short answer?
Absolutely.
They won't. We can end it there.
Okay.
Right.
Wow, that's
Simple.
a great argument.
Simple.
I don't know what that means.
Well, that might be our shortest podcast yet.
And that's it. Well, thanks for joining us, Jared.
Thanks. We're glad you came in.
Let me clarify. Okay. So first of all, yes, there is a lot of buzz about, all of these different Second Amendment bills that are being proposed this year. The reason I say they will not affect hunters is because there's approximately a 0.001% chance that any of these sees the light of day.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what we're hoping for anyway.
Yeah. I don't see any of this passing. We've got a divided House, a very slight DFL majority in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough support for, these bills to really see them.
Well, and a few of them already failed within the House part of it.
Correct.
Yeah, I think all of them did, right?
Anything in the House.
Any of the House files.
Made progress.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There is, some talk about the potential for one or two to make it through the Senate. But that would require, every single DFL senator to vote in favor of passing them.
Right.
Mm-hmm. There's a handful of even DFL, folks that are kind of on the fence on this because they come from, kind of the outstate and their constituency isn't too supportive of them. So it's kind of, they have to make a decision. Do we go with party lines or do we go with what our constituents want to see?
Right. Well,
and I feel like we talked about this before we hit record. I've already mentioned the DFL a few times. Are we going to get blocked now?
I think if you say DFL, we're fine. Just
I think so too.
Don't use the other words, otherwise we'll get blocked.
Yeah,
all right. So perfect.
I think we'd probably be safe.
I think so. We're going to find out now on this one.
So
love it.
Yeah, and I guess I would like to, put a disclaimer out there that if you want, this really isn't our lane. Don't look to us for expert advice on these. Maybe check out the Minnesota Gun Caucus group. They put out a lot of good information.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, we're just going to kind of look into it from what we understand and how it may or may not affect hunters. We're going to get the opinion from the executive director of MDHA on some of this too.
Yeah, no, it's a good disclaimer. MDHA is not inherently a Second Amendment rights organization, right? We're a hunting and conservation organization. But that being said, we do follow Second Amendment issues closely because they can have the potential to impact hunters and our way of life. And our executive board, 2 years ago now, our corporate board actually did vote that MDHA will stand behind the Second Amendment no matter what.
Right.
So whenever these bills do come up, it is our official stance that we oppose them. We have a lobbyist full-time down at the Capitol that's working very closely with groups like the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus and our elected officials to stop these whenever we can.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a few people that have been commenting on the Facebook page and emails and stuff like that. We know you listen to the podcast, so you need to turn it up just a little bit more and rewind what Jared just said. It was 2 years ago that MDHA did that.
Right.
And nothing's changed.
Right. And we have a lobbyist down there working with the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus.
Right.
Yeah.
Currently.
Right. Every day. They send me updates anytime there is an update to be had. So, yeah, we are definitely on top of this. I submit written testimony frequently. I go down there frequently whenever, something does look like it has the potential to make headway on something we either want to see or don't want to see. That's typically when I show up.
So let me ask you a question, Jared, on the lobbyist standpoint. So what does it mean when we tell people we have a lobbyist down there working on this every day? What does that mean for the person that doesn't know?
Yeah. So first and foremost, the most valuable thing that the lobbyist does for us is keep us in the know prior to, just the general public, right? Like they're having conversations about bills before they are ever even proposed or introduced on the floor, right? They are aware of these. They're aware of who's co-authoring them, and they're filling us in so that we can either provide our input on that or our opposition to that before it ever, is even brought up in a Senate or House hearing. But then they're the ones making the day-to-day connections with our senators, with our representatives, and expressing the opinions of our robust organization here in the state and kind of how we would like to see them vote on things.
Right.
Yeah, because otherwise, without that lobbyist, you would have to pretty much be down there.
I have to live in the cities, and I'm not about to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Totally understandable. Don't blame me one bit.
It is amazing what the lobbyists and those, people do, day to day to keep tabs on everything. I mean, that's a lot of phone calls, a lot of in person and emails.
Right. And that's why their office is literally across the street, right?
Yeah. Right across from the Senate building.
Right.
Yeah.
So they know they have access.
Yeah. And the other big part of what they do is when there is a bill that either we want to see or we don't want to see become law, often what they will do is reach out to the other groups that are like-minded or share a similar focus, and they'll build coalitions for us, right? And once you get that coalition, it's not just the 20,000 members of the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. It's the 20,000 MDHA members. It's the 10,000 PF members. It's a lot of people, and before you know it, when a big issue comes up, it's every conservationist in the state of Minnesota, and that's the lobbyist that makes those connections possible.
Right. No, that's great, and I think that just goes to show why you should be a member of these organizations, because they have that tool in their kit.
Exactly.
Not that our lobbyist is a tool. So if you're listening, I apologize.
We all have a voice, right? And we need to use our voice. But when you join a group like MDHA or Pheasants Forever or whoever, that voice is amplified, right? And that's where you can really, truly start to have an impact.
Right.
Well, and it's amazing how well these conservation groups work together on all this too. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is behind the scenes and may not get as publicized as what it should.
Right.
But there's a lot of these bills over the years that, one may have backed a little bit more just because they're more in the public eye, but behind it, every conservation group in the state was there too.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And just like you said, the lobbyists, and he's working with groups like the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus. Mm-hmm. Well, this is kind of more their lane,
right?
The 2A stuff. So we kind of, probably follow their lead a little bit, at least on social media and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even if we're not screaming in it from, the tower, we are working on it.
Right. And oftentimes, you'll see like a hearing come up and there will be written testimony submitted by Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, right? But what they don't say is that there's 30 organizations that have signed on to that written testimony. Right. And so that's a lot of what we do as well. And so, it might not be in your face that MDHA is on this and working on this issue, but we're there.
Right. Yeah, because we're focusing more on hunter issues and stuff.
Yeah.
Even though we support this issue and other issues,
absolutely,
we allow other organizations to kind of take the head.
Well, those organizations are designed around those issues, right? They have the infrastructure to be able to take up that fight, and we're just there to support.
Exactly. So let's get into this: the semi-auto rifle ban. That's one of the Senate File 3655. Yeah. This is the one that I think is getting this in the magazine capacity, are the two that are getting the most attention, right? And this is basically very similar to bills we've seen in the past, where it's not a kind of blanket ban on a specific make model of firearm. It's more like a feature ban, right? So if your firearm has certain features to it, it falls under this ban. And so those features are, anything from a barrel guard that
that protects your hand from touching a hot barrel, to a detachable magazine, anything like that, right? It's all these different features that they've pulled into this bill to kind of create this, what would in fact be a semi-auto rifle ban.
Right. And what's the magazine ban? Anything over 10?
Anything over 10.
Over 10.
Yep.
And I think they were, I read mainly from the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus website is if this did pass, I mean, they could like do inspections or something, or what was that for?
They could actually come in and inspect your safe and your firearms,
right,
and make sure that you don't have any what would now
illegal
be felony level.
Oh, felony.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No grandfathering. So if you have it, you got to turn it in.
Right. And what I mean, I know all three of us here, we have safes, we have 30 round mags, we have ARs. So, I mean, even though I might sound like I don't know all these rules, they would affect me. So,
and I think, I try to look at these issues from the lens of your average deer hunter in Minnesota, right? And I don't know that any of this legislation would affect your average deer hunter in Minnesota participating in the act of deer hunting, right?
Right.
But as we know, 99% of deer hunters are gun owners.
Right.
We don't all just own our one deer rifle.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's where, this is of interest to a lot of our members that do own, AR style rifles.
Exactly.
Use them a lot for like predator management and stuff like that.
Love them for that.
And the problem is with the first part of it, it's most semi-auto rifles, not only the magazine ban, but it would also lead into your BARs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is that BAR?
Without the magazine ban, obviously the magazine ban is more for the AR platform. But before that, it would lead into your BARs.
Well, and that's again where it gets into it's really a feature ban, right? A firearm feature ban. And I don't know that BARs would fall under that. I'm trying to think specifically about any of the features that would apply there.
Because they have a detachable mag. Because that was one of the features.
But doesn't the BAR has a detachable mag, doesn't it?
Yeah, the BAR does. Yeah,
it does.
Right. So that's why I think
they are considered an AR.
At first, they weren't considered part of that. But then as you read more of the feature stuff, then since it does have a detachable mag, which by the way is hard to detach. I tried to detach one off a BAR.
Is that the one we can barely figure out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I still don't know how to do that.
Yeah. The new ones. The old ones obviously had the definite, detachable mag like your AR. Now the new ones, they have a drop plate with a mag in it.
And you got to say abracadabra. I don't even know.
Yeah, you got to hold it
just right.
Yeah, stand on one leg and
Yeah. Anyway, that was off topic. But so Jared, would your Mini 14 be affected by this?
So I was actually just going to bring that up because the last time we saw similar language proposed, the Mini 14 did not fall under there.
Okay.
But this is more all encompassing, and yes, it would.
Yeah, because at first it was mainly for pistol grip firearms and detachable mags, where those wouldn't because they had a rifle stock.
Right.
But now it encompasses it all.
Yep.
Yeah. So we basically would lose all our predator hunting setups.
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So basically that's what it means. And predator hunters would definitely be affected by this.
100%.
Because the vast majority, most other than your new predator hunting gun.
Correct.
Although that does have a detachable magazine, doesn't it?
It does have a detachable.
But it's not semi though.
No. It's not semi.
It's a bolt action.
It's a bolt action.
But all our other ones would be affected.
But it is a magazine ban. So I couldn't have anything over 10 in it.
Right.
You'd have to stick with your little 6-rounders,
right?
Whatever those are.
Yep. 5 rounds. Yeah.
5-rounders. Yeah. And there's a lot of people out there that'll say, well, you can use a bolt action for predator hunting, right? And yes.
Well, you totally could.
You absolutely can.
A lot of people do.
I can also, use a spoon to eat my steak, but that doesn't mean there's not a better tool out there for it,
Exactly.
Right. Yep.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
Stop using a spoon to eat your steak.
I'm just going to use my hands, just like when I predator.
Like a real man.
Well, and then the other part of this, on the backside, just like you said, no grandfathering in, and with it saying in there that, they could look in your safes and you have to turn it in. If you don't, you're illegal. You're breaking the law, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's where it becomes really
questionable
and questionable.
So does that, when they say that, they come do the inspection, whatever that was, does that mean for the semi-autos or the magazines, or is it both?
Both.
So
it's both. Well, it would depend on what passes, right?
So then basically what you're saying is if this passed, how would they even know that we had these guns?
That's a really good question.
Because there's no way for them to legally know that right now, right?
Nope.
Correct. And so it would be, you pretty much have to voluntarily let them come do this in order to then, because, I believe it's House File 3433 is a little bit lesser strengthened language, a weaker language than the Senate companion bill, where it doesn't outright ban them. The semi-auto rifles, you can still have them, but you're limited to only being able to use them at an actual gun range
or your own property
or your own
self-defense. Yeah.
And so now, if you chose not to do this voluntary inspection, and you went to a range and you pulled that gun out and somebody saw it, you could get a felony because you didn't declare it. It wasn't, inspected. All of that.
The other thing I'm wondering about, and maybe I don't know enough about it, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but wasn't there something a few years ago to where all ammo purchases and stuff like that are, police can review those from stores? Because it does show up on your credit card it's a different category, and they are categorized as firearms, ammo, stuff like that, accessories.
I believe you're right. I think that was a federal decision.
It was a federal thing, to where it does categorize it on the back end,
right?
For that kind of stuff.
So they can see what kind of ammo you bought. So you're telling me they now know that I bought 50 BMG ammo?
Yeah, I believe so. If they wanted to look into it, they can do that.
Great.
Yep.
I'm definitely flagged out.
Because I do remember hearing something about it, and I know a lot of the ammo, manufacturers or ammo people online were going to fit because, again, invasion of privacy type thing. But I believe it passed, and so they can look into that now. So that would be a way to where they would.
If they wanted to.
If they wanted to, it would be a way for them to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Super.
Right?
Yeah.
It's fun, man.
But if you buy it with cash,
there you go. It would be definitely much harder.
I don't know how that works, but
definitely would make them have to work for it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But and then this also has the potential to impact some of the firearms collectors out there, that have a piece of World War II history or something like that. And one thing we didn't mention with the magazine ban is if this were to go into effect, which again, I highly doubt it will. Well, we kind of touched on it. Yeah, you either have to surrender it to, law enforcement,
right.
You have to destroy it, or you have to make it permanently limited in capacity.
Okay.
Right. So pin it and weld it.
They do sell those kits.
Okay. Yep. So basically they're saying if this did pass, you'd have to do those things, or you could be charged with a felony if caught.
Correct. And I believe it's a felony count for each firearm and each magazine.
Oh, dear Lord. That would be bad.
I think a lot of people would be like, ooh, ouch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'd be, stacked with felonies.
Right.
Yeah. So what else do we got going on there? I know there's a bunch more. I mean, we don't have to talk about all of them, but I know there's some Senate File 2320, the preemptive repeal.
Yeah. And this is just really kind of like we were seeing with the shotgun zone and the repeal of that.
Yeah.
How we can, it's up to the counties now to decide whether or not they'll allow rifles. This preemption repeal would allow local control of what firearms.
Does this mean that local county, city, whatever it may be, could create any gun laws?
I believe they could create any gun laws that do not infringe upon the state or federal gun laws.
So they'd have to limit themselves to, less than that, I guess you'd say.
Right.
I don't know.
Like Itasca County couldn't come out and say everyone gets a machine gun.
Right.
That's too bad.
Or they couldn't say you cannot enter the county with your permit to carry.
Right.
Oh, so
We will not allow permit to carries. Yeah.
I can't even say that word.
Reciprocity.
Between counties.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't believe I said that word.
I know, but earlier you did say category.
Did I?
Yeah.
Category.
I was probably
Category.
trying to talk too quick. It happens.
But yeah, I mean, these Second Amendment bills are something that we see every year. It's something we're going to continue
Now,
to see every year.
is this year worse than previous years?
Yeah, somewhat.
It seems to be, but maybe that's just
I
my
think there's
perception.
more because it's in both House and the Senate.
Yeah, and I think my theory is kind of that we're seeing that for two reasons. One, and this isn't just my theory, this is just an obvious fact, but one, we have a governor that is on his way out, right?
Yep.
You're right. I said governor. Are we?
I think we're fine with that word. Just don't see the D or the R words.
Right.
Otherwise, we'll get flagged.
No, but okay. So we have a governor that is on his way out, right? He is no longer, re-election is not in his sight.
Right.
Right. So what he's going to do is stand up for what he believes in.
Right. I suppose. Yeah. He doesn't have to worry about re-election.
Exactly.
So, okay,
and he's going to
makes
try
sense.
to pass anything and everything he can that aligns with his agenda prior to leaving office.
Yep.
And his party's going to kind of follow suit with that.
Okay.
The other reason I think we're seeing so many, and we're seeing this not just with Second Amendment bills, but with bills across the board. We see it with the Wolf Bill, right? How many Wolf bills are introduced in Minnesota Congress right now? There's like 18 of them.
Right. Every year.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's not because it's not doing us a favor to have more Wolf bills in play.
Right.
Right. But we have such a partisan Congress right now that nobody's willing to work together. Nobody's willing to reach across the aisle. Everybody wants to be the first author on a bill. They want their own.
They want to say they did it. They got it done.
Exactly.
They're doing it, even if they don't do anything.
Yeah. Hey, my constituents, look, I authored this bill.
Right.
I'm not supporting the 13 other bills that my party authored, but I authored this one.
Right.
And so that's why we're seeing so many different versions of pretty much the same thing. And Second Amendment issue is following suit there.
Yeah. And I would say that even, I don't know, more so or the same, similar, in that kind of tone is urban and rural.
Mm-hmm.
At least with this, from what I was reading, there seems to be and maybe I'm wrong, there seems to be a divide there too.
Yeah. And, I think that divide is pretty much universal. It doesn't matter what issue you're talking about. It's a growing rift in the state.
Right. I think it has been always, but more so, I think in recent years, it seems to be.
For sure.
Because from what I read that, people, obviously we live in a rural area and I always have. So,
right.
I mean, guns have just been a way of life and have always been there. So, I mean, I probably look at them differently than somebody who maybe didn't grow up with them. So maybe someday we should get somebody that didn't grow up with them here talking to us.
There you go.
That'd be an interesting take.
Yeah. I mean, I did grow up with them, but in a very different setting, right?
Yeah.
I grew up in, down in the metro area.
Right. I suppose you did, didn't you?
Yeah. And like we always had guns, but it was like the guns come out when we go up to the cabin, right? Like, they're locked away. We never even think about them until we're out of the cities, right?
Okay.
And then I moved out to Colorado and, my wife and I lived on all this land running this education center. And, when kids weren't around, you could just walk out your front door naked and shoot a squirrel if you wanted to, right?
Yeah, that's how I grew up.
Yeah. And so I remember one day doing that. I shot a rabbit. We had it for dinner. And I looked at my wife and I said, never again will I live somewhere where I can't walk out my front door naked and shoot a gun.
Yeah.
And so far, I've held true to that.
If your neighbors appreciate that, but
I guess technically you could do that in the cities, but you'll spend the night probably more than a night in jail.
Right. You might get a few different organizations called on you.
Yeah.
Shoot them with your bow.
Right.
I think you'd probably get in trouble for that too.
Probably.
You probably would, depending on the The city probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think some cities do let you shoot
Some
bow in your
cities do.
backyard.
Yeah, they have
Right.
city ordinances that way. Yep.
The cool ones.
So yeah, moral of the story is there's a lot of commotion going on about these bills. I would say don't worry about them too much. Be aware that they exist, right?
Mhm.
If this is an issue that matters to you, let your senators, let your representatives know where you stand on it. But I don't see them going anywhere.
Right. Because, I mean, obviously, like you said, there is an advantage to one party in the Senate.
One seat. Advantage.
One seat. Yeah. So, I mean, realistically, these could pass, right? We know that they probably won't.
Right. They could pass the Senate.
They could pass the Senate. They've already been shot down in the House, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in my knowledge of government, which is not vast, they have to pass both, right? Before they even get to the governor, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing that we'd have to watch out for is, towards the end of the session, when you take the House and the Senate files and they try to come together to get one final bill,
Right.
There are concessions that are often made in favor of, a bill that you want to see passed.
Okay.
But I would say the Second Amendment is one of those areas that the party does not really give concessions on.
Right. Right. You said the R word.
Yeah, you did.
Damn it.
But I do
We
think
can bleep it.
right? But I do think one of the most important takeaways from this is contact your legislator. Let them know how you feel.
Right.
Right. Go to, those sites. The Gun Owners Caucus has a really good site to where
Yeah,
you
they
can
got lots of information.
link up to it and contact your representative.
And send them,
MDHA has,
join Gun Owners Caucus. I don't know if they have different levels. MDHA has different levels. We're all working on it, right? Even though we don't scream it at the top of our lungs.
Right. Well, and I would say, feel free to reach out to us as well.
Right.
Let us know where you stand on these issues and, how these might or might not impact your way of life and your way of hunting.
Right.
Because it's always good to have more information, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how's the shotgun thing going in the counties?
Pretty good. I think last I checked, there were only 3.
Well, you'd have to look at the spreadsheet again,
I'd have to look at the spreadsheet again.
which I did today for a long time. I updated our map.
Yeah.
And then
So are we at more than 3
3 what?
counties that are sticking with shotgun?
For a certainty, I would say there's probably maybe a couple more than 3.
Okay. So 3 to 5.
3 to 5, possibly. There is a bunch that, were shotgun,
That have
and
decided to
they're
allow
having
it.
meetings. They haven't decided yet.
Mhm.
So we're waiting for that update, and that's slow coming.
Mhm.
But there has been a lot that were shotgun that have switched to rifle, or
Yeah.
well, I don't know if you say switched, but just let that law happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you look at the MDHA website and go to the support rifle statewide page, there's a little map on there, and we try to keep that up to date as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marshall.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shout out to Marshall.
Uh-huh.
And I would just say that, for years trying to get the shotgun zone repealed, it would always come down to just a handful of counties that really opposed it.
Right.
And one of the most vocal counties was Olmsted County.
Right.
And just yesterday,
I changed them to green.
they voted to allow rifles.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
yeah. So the tides have shifted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of green down there on the map nowadays.
Mhm.
I mean, there's still a couple red holdouts, and there probably always going to be, but
And again, it just goes to show up to the meetings,
right.
contact your
Yeah.
legislators or your representatives, even at your county level,
The commissioners,
commissioners, and
Mhm.
you can get what you want done or not done. One or the
Right.
other. You
Right.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, we worked very closely with a number of elected officials to get that shotgun zone repealed. And so huge shout out to them for their support on this and their hard work on this as well.
Right. And I would say if you get any updates, you hear any updates from your county, please let us know.
Yes, absolutely.
info@mndeerhunters.com. Shoot us an email. Let us know what your county's doing.
And we've got a few already put together letters of
Yeah.
recommendation or
Yeah.
what do you want to call them?
Like testimonies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a written testimony that, you can fill out with your county info and all the language of the argument is there for you. You can submit those to your county commissioner.
Yeah, or you can request one on that page I was talking about on the MDHA website, and we'll send one email, or I've mailed them before. So
yeah,
in your name if you want.
Perfect.
Hopefully they made it there with the snail mail.
Right.
It's been like 3 weeks. It better have been there.
But yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes where we're at with the Second Amendment stuff in Minnesota.
Yeah, keep your eye on it. Follow the Gun Owners Caucus. They have a ton of information, and we kind of look to them to kind of lead that charge.
Yeah, we definitely support them, and our lobbyist supports them a lot as well. And we have submitted written testimony, and our lobbyist is at every single one of those hearings. So
right.
Cool.
But we're feeling in our cockles that this isn't going anywhere.
Our cockles.
Cockles.
That's a good word, right?
Is that a word?
That's deep down, I think.
It is deep down.
All right. I'll take your word.
I might have made it up. I
think what's it? Dennis Leary. He said it.
That's what it is. Dennis Leary. Yeah.
Yeah. For one of our favorite songs.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That really describes us. Yeah. I'm an asshole. By Dennis Leary.
God, it's
so great.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
what else do we have to talk about?
All right. Yeah. So that was quite a bit about the Second Amendment issues here in Minnesota. There's also a lot of kind of national chatter, and it's trickling into Minnesota too, on some Fourth Amendment stuff as it pertains to COs and searching private property. During hunting season and not during hunting season.
Right.
Figured this would be a good time for us to talk about that.
Just throw some of it out there.
Right.
And this is people thinking.
Right.
Thinking.
Conversations.
Mm-hmm. So should a CO be able to just enter your property whenever they want? Is your private land private? Or does the government get to say it's open field?
That's a tough question.
Mm-hmm.
I think really what we're talking about here is two somewhat very different things that have a very common trend between them, right? We're talking about Fourth Amendment, right to privacy and, illegal search and seizure and all of that. But we're also talking about conservation of a natural renewable resource and taking into account that the tragedy of the commons is a very real thing, right? And so when those natural resources don't have those protections, you can see some pretty devastating impacts on them, right? And so that's where I think that Fourth Amendment has been kind of forfeited for COs in some respects, right? When it comes to the actual land for the purposes of enforcing wildlife violations, right?
Yeah, because wildlife is a public resource.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so, they are on your private property, but they're not your deer. They're not your turkeys, right? And so that's where, at the federal level, they have, and in Minnesota, they have decided that, without a warrant, a CO can come onto your land and investigate any suspicious activity or, just check for legality, right?
Right.
And I don't know where I stand on this because I do think that we need to have enforcement when it comes to harvesting our wildlife and making sure we're doing that in a sustainable way. But I also believe in a right to privacy, and I don't like when people come on my land.
Right.
So this is a tough one, and that's why it is this big debate going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's a valid argument.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, they're there to defend the public resource, but how does that work on private land?
Right. Right. And I think,
so how do you respect both?
Exactly. And I would like to see, some sort of And the language is somewhat in there, but it's so open to interpretation, that they can come investigate, right? But what are they investigating? Like, I would like to see something about, probable cause, right?
Right.
They heard a gunshot after shooting hours.
Right.
Sure, go investigate the source of that gunshot, right? But don't just, pull up to an area where people are hunting on opening weekend and just start walking through their land looking for whatever you can find.
Right. Or if you have probable cause on one property, don't just go walk to neighbor's property just because it's there.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That to me seems questionable. Something like that.
Right.
Yes.
But I do understand, that if you are going to stop somebody who is, poaching a deer or whatever, that getting a warrant to then go investigate that is pretty prohibitive to actually doing the investigation. Like you do have to act in real time, but have some probable cause.
Right. There should be some guardrails.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the frustration comes in is we've heard a number of cases where a CO is just walking property lines,
right?
Checking areas that he knows people have stands set up.
Exactly. He knows that somebody could be hunting there.
Right.
So maybe he goes and checks, even though it turns out maybe there's not even anybody there. So that right there was a waste of time and maybe a violation of somebody's privacy rights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't need to come up to me at the stand just to make sure I have a license.
Right. Or maybe just because somebody has some property that they could hunt on. I mean, what if you go investigate that, but then there's no real reason whatsoever.
Right.
So, I mean, I think there's arguments to be made on both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, there's arguments to be made that, COs need to have the ability to enforce those rules. But then when you get on somebody's property, I don't know. How do you do that?
Right.
How do you do that, Dean?
I know that's where it's tough because I have more from growing up of private land.
Right. You're from a different state.
Authority.
Kansas.
So
there's a lot more private land down there.
Yeah,
I grew up a lot of public land.
Right. So that's where my thoughts are a little bit different. Not necessarily different because I agree with a lot of it. You got to have probable cause for one. And with that, that can get touchy, and I agree with your, shooting after dark and trying to find where it's at. I totally agree with that. But when it comes to private land and just being able to walk, and it says no trespassing, stuff like that, that's where it gets tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you pull up to a deer camp, pull up to the end of the driveway opening weekend and there's pallet full of feed corn there,
right.
Maybe you have a reason to go investigate, Well,
at least walk up and talk. I mean, just come on in.
See what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And you're right. And we've heard this argument before in Minnesota for various different things about, what's private, what's not private, and what they can do and what they can't do.
Yeah.
And I don't know how this one will resolve.
Well, there's a couple bills. One of them would require a CO to get a warrant or consent in order to search a property. Which that might be going too far.
Right.
Because how do you get a warrant?
Right. You'd have to get in front of a judge.
Yeah.
And that seems
before you know it, it's the next morning and that deer's in a freezer.
Or in another county, So.
Exactly. So,
but maybe if there was some type of, this day and age, you can digitally document all kinds of things in an instant.
Right.
Maybe if you had, documentation, this is what I saw, this is why I did that, what I did. That seems like it could solve some of the issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where that probable cause comes in. Right.
Right.
And then, there's another bill introduced that, would require a CO to coordinate with the county sheriff before conducting any searches, which, that might get around some of the issues, but then we go into the issue of we are in a peace officer shortage,
Right. And I don't know if that would make much difference in my opinion, because, they're just going to get a green light from most of the sheriffs, like, do what you need to do kind of thing.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just a technicality.
Yeah. Because most of them would probably give them the green light because they don't deal with that.
Right. Oh, you know better than I do kind of thing. Do your thing.
Yeah.
But I think at least with, having to coordinate with a county sheriff, are they going to give them the green light to say, yeah, just go walk everybody's property? Or are they going to say, what's your probable cause for wanting to go onto this property?
Because that is another good point too.
Yeah.
To where the local law enforcement sheriff's office would be like, well, exactly. What are your reasonings? Or what are your reasons? You need to have something clear cut.
Yeah.
And then, yes, I'll accompany you on this, investigation.
Right.
Because if your only reason for wanting to go walk a property is because you saw, a bunch of guys up there 2 weeks ago checking stands or setting up stands, then that's not a good reason to go investigate.
No.
It seems kind of lame to me.
Right.
So you don't even know if they're there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting topic and one that we'll be watching closely.
I think it'll just, kind of, maybe we'll see more drones in the sky.
Right.
They'll be looking via that way, which technically they're not violating private property rights then.
It's true.
Because you don't own your right to airspace, at least not Minnesota.
No, I can't afford the air.
Barely afford the land.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and this brings up another issue that's been kind of pervasive in the news and the chats lately, which is mostly, kind of a Western issue, but it's trickling its way this way, which is the corner crossing.
Right.
And, I think corner crossing is a no-brainer. Like, if you've got a landlocked parcel of land that every public person owns and pays for,
there should be access.
They should be able to access it.
Correct.
And
right.
God forbid they cross a corner of a property to go access that.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as they're doing it respectfully.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a no-brainer to me too.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't see it as much here in Minnesota, a little bit up here in northern Minnesota, but out west, it's obviously a big issue.
Big issue out there. People get creative on how to cross those corners.
Step ladders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I think geometry is the way to solve it.
Like a catapult.
No,
and you don't have
geometry.
to touch, just catapult.
Just change the shapes of the properties. Don't make them squares.
There you go.
Squares are too sharp. Let's add
make it a circle.
Well, I mean, you're right, but maybe not so much of a circle. Just round those corners.
I don't know. Just do like a 10-foot easement at the corners.
Exactly.
Right. Like a green zone.
Right.
Even if it's 10, 5, just enough width for a person to fit through.
Yeah.
Not a vehicle, a person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was a parcel that I like to hunt out in Colorado that was landlocked, but out there, any historically navigable waterway is public land.
Right.
But a landowner can own the river bottom.
Which is bizarre to me.
Which is super weird, right? So you'd have to find a way to not touch bottom. So I'd bring like a little boogie board, just float to the section.
That's just so bizarre because in Kansas it's the same way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you guys can fence your rivers.
We do.
Yeah.
I know you do. I've seen them.
Yeah.
And like where I grew up is like, that's unimaginable.
I know.
Yep.
It's
it's
like
crazy.
Water is public, and that's northern Minnesota, I guess. But when they go down there and you guys got fences going across rivers and your neighbors,
Yep.
That's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I get it, but it's crazy to me.
Yeah. I don't know, at least the rivers around where we hunt down in Kansas, I don't think there's any fish in there.
Oh, there are.
Are there?
Oh,
really?
yeah. There's people. We used to fish them as kids and stuff.
Did you catch anything?
Yes. I mean, we catch carp every now and then.
Those aren't fish.
They're fish. There were some bass runs here and there, but there's a lot of carp in it. But yeah, there's other fish. There's some panfish and stuff.
Okay.
You gotta be catfish,
not a
right?
lot. Yeah, there's catfish in the river.
Those are fish.
Certain parts of the river, not so much on our end, but down by the bridge, you'd end up catching more.
I don't know. I've seen some minnows in there.
I didn't see anything while I was swimming.
Yeah, there's fish in there. Well,
you hadn't showered in a few days, but it was like a slick.
That's true.
But with that, you could say that the river down there is not necessarily navigable.
That's very true.
It's shallow, pretty shallow in areas. Although I have paddled through areas in the boundary waters that are that shallow,
Yeah.
and at the cabin.
I was going to say we were on the Crow River and it was that shallow.
Yeah,
Crow Wing River.
Crow Wing River. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we optimistically brought the duck boat and couldn't even launch it.
Yeah.
Next year. Yeah, I think you say it next year.
Yeah. So it is kind of a touchy subject and hard to navigate. I mean,
Right, and obviously,
I think we all agree. There obviously is you've got to have COs.
absolutely.
Because they have a total different jurisdiction, rule of law, and stuff they have to perform.
And I
versus
fully
your
support
local law
COs.
enforcement and sheriffs.
Fully support him. We've had one here. Great guy. I've met lots of great ones. My son wants to be one. So I fully support what they do.
For sure.
I think there needs to be maybe some clear guidelines on accessing private property when there's no reason to access private property.
Yeah.
Now, you see somebody out there doing stupid shit. Yeah, by all means.
For sure.
In my opinion, go out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know how much of a problem it truly is, but I would like to see clarification around it.
Right, because it is
Yes.
a question we've been hearing more and more over the last couple of years. Certain folks bringing it up more and more.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be a clarification.
Yeah.
And I think the COs probably would agree because they don't want to deal with that. You can't do this, you can't do that kind of thing. They need a clarification.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and speaking of clarification, just to be clear, this only applies to open land, right? It does not permit them to search your house or vehicle or any of that.
Your garage or anything like that. And I don't even know. I know we were talking earlier when we weren't recording about fenced in property, marked property. I don't know the technicalities of that. That might be different, even technicalities.
That's for different states.
Yeah.
Is it?
Minnesota, they can ignore a no trespassing
Right.
sign.
Correct.
What about a fence?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can they cross a fence?
Yes.
Even as electrified alligators.
They might be a little bit more careful. They're only going to do it once.
Yeah. They can cross it. I don't know if they will.
Right.
I bet they're going to be pissed off when they do.
Oh, man.
No, I think COs do great things.
For
Yes.
sure.
So-
they are out there protecting a public good and
And
ensuring that we
I
have a
appreciate it
healthy
because
population.
I enjoy that public good that they do protect.
Yeah.
And in certain areas, actually, probably a lot of areas, we could use a few more of them.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It sure seems like, even in Itasca County, there's not very many.
Oh, I've
And
called
this is a big
before
county.
and there's none on duty.
Right.
And I'm sure it's just because of the shortage.
Yeah. And we know in St. Louis County and a couple of those districts, they're definitely shorthanded.
Yep.
Northwestern, Minnesota, they're definitely, I think they're all shorthanded, honestly.
I don't think any of them want to work in northwestern Minnesota.
I damn sure wouldn't.
Right. I hear the people up there are crazy.
Crusty for sure.
Yeah. Cray.
If you know, you know.
Yep.
But yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
COs they're doing a hard job and they're doing their best job at it. And, I've had some run-ins with COs and they've always been friendly and professional. And,
I've had both. I'll be honest. I've had both.
Yeah, I've had both too.
I've never gotten a ticket from one. I'll say that. But some of them are having bad days, which happens to all of us.
right.
Yeah, it happens in every profession,
Right.
so.
I mean, just like today, you were a dick.
Yeah, because you deserve it. It's Wednesday.
I agree with both of you.
I see how you are. I see you want to pull a sweet now. Yeah.
So, do we want to get into our last Facebook post?
Oh,
Day on the Hill.
yeah, we could.
Sure. I did not.
How did Day on the Hill? I mean, you don't have to. If you need a second, we can take a break.
Oh, I'm an open book.
All right. How'd Day on the Hill go?
It was good. It's interesting holding events like that at the Capitol right now because of all the construction and everything going on.
Well, most people don't know about that. So, what is going on down there?
Well, they're completely redoing the House building and quite a few other improvement projects. I don't even know what all is happening, but all I know is it's projected to be finished by like summer of 2028.
Oh, wow. So, they're doing something fancy.
Yeah. I think there's, some increased security updates and stuff going in and all that. But so it's interesting. There's not a whole lot of like communal meeting spaces there right now. A lot of our elected officials aren't really in their office when they typically would be because their office is a construction zone.
Right.
But it was good. We had a good turnout. I think we had about 20 or so people there. We met at our lobbyist's office right across from the Senate building.
Mm-hmm.
Had a number of legislators come over and address the group. Will YouTube block us if I say their names?
I think you can say their names. Just say their last names.
Yeah.
I mean, the picture that we posted was with
Representative Heintzman, who is the co-speaker or co-chair of the House Environment Committee. Right now. And he came over, talked with the group for a while. We talked about the issues, Second Amendment, wolves, crossbows, all that. We also had Senator Drazkowski, who was a big proponent of ours on the shotgun zone elimination.
Right.
Okay.
We had Senator Howe, and then Representative Schultz. They all actually took the time to,
that's awesome. They had that many folks come over.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a couple others that were slotted to show up, but got called into a session or a hearing. And then, from there, we spoke with all those folks. We spoke with just our group, myself, our president, and our lobbyist, answered questions and all that. And then everyone kind of split off to go meet with the senators and the reps that were around and available, talk about the issues that matter most to hunters and conservationists in Minnesota.
Right. And I will have to say that, did you get a new pair of shoes? Those are some fancy shoes you were wearing.
They were fancy shoes. Yes and no.
Oh, because those things were like...
I've had them for a couple years.
Styling. I've never seen them.
Had them for a couple years. This is my second time wearing them. My first time wearing them was at my sister's wedding.
Okay.
I had to buy them for her wedding.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive. I mean, we noticed them right away. We're like, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Jared's not wearing Crocs.
Right.
Pretty much.
Right. I mean, you really stepped it up.
Well, thank you.
And I get it. It's an important thing.
Right. You got to at least act professional.
Right. And the
Heintzman, yeah.
was holding one of our wolf management signs.
He was.
Yeah.
And an MDHA, Blaze Orange MDHA hat.
Right. Which
he promised me that would go up. Well, I told him he could take the sign if he promised it would be proudly displayed in his office. And he said it would, but he can't guarantee that Senator Heintzman wouldn't steal it for her office because that's his wife.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And she's it's literally this area's senator,
she is,
right?
Yeah. Our
Well,
senator.
right. If we had to send her one, I bet we could.
We could totally send.
We know where to get
We
more.
could send you all one down there if you want to put them up in your office.
That's right. But yeah, so it's proudly displayed in one of their offices.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah, and that post hit that it damn near went viral, I guess.
Yeah. A couple 100,000 views and bunch of comments.
Bunch of comments.
Yeah, not all of them friendly.
All positive.
Mostly. I would say mostly. I mean, there was a few that
I would say there was a good majority of positive, and then a lot of ignorant comments from.
Well, it's social media.
People.
You're going to get those folks.
I mean, I honestly, ignorance is probably too nice of a word for some of these.
Well, it is, but this is a PG.
You got an example?
Let's see. I was looking through, and yeah, I mean,
don't read the ones that is Jared's wife's burner account.
Right. Let's see.
Yeah, those ones are mean because they're true.
I mean, there's honestly so many good ones that.
So many good ones. I want to hear the good ones.
Oh gosh, I don't even know what ones.
I just can't believe nobody commented on your shoes.
No, there was a comment on the other guy's shoes.
I think that it's because they're so awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to make fun of cool shoes.
They were pretty bad.
No, here's
I would
part
wear
of
them
one.
more, but they're not very comfortable.
No, they didn't look comfortable.
This one I saw a few different times, a lot from fake accounts because they're too worthless to do anything else. But Minnesota Deer Hunters Association is a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a joke. And then we get people that, respond to them, which is good. Which is really funny, but that was on.
I did like your accent there. I don't know what country that was, but that was
that wasn't a country.
Yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. There's too many to read.
Yeah, there was hundreds and hundreds of comments.
And what I like is there's comments that ask, like you already stated. You talked about the Second Amendment. You talked about wolf. You talked about crossbows, everything else, and there's people, well, did you guys talk about the Second Amendment? Did you talk about delisting the wolves? It's like, if you were a member, you would know,
right?
Wouldn't you?
You could also show up,
absolutely.
Be part of the conversation.
Yep, because they discussed that in the Whitetails magazine prior to, and social media and everything else. So if you were a member and you followed and not trolled, you would know the answers to these questions.
Yeah, I love that. There's a question on there. Did you guys even talk about wolves? And you're literally commenting on a picture of me and the chair of the House Environment Committee holding a support wolf management sign.
Right.
I just gave them the sign.
Reading's
we didn't
hard.
talk about it.
That was Photoshop.
Oh, here's a good. Here's a good one. Chair's worthless.
I think that was it.
That was my mom, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Love you too, Mom.
Oh, I like this one. I think this guy was just attacking everybody who comments. Most of you dorks don't even get out in the woods beyond the trail from your truck to your stand.
And that is actually probably true for a vast majority of the folks that commented on that one.
That is quite true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so much on here. It's just funny, and it's like, just trolling.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just where it goes to show that MDHA does do a lot of great work, and we're engaged, we're active, we're at the Capitol, showing up in numbers to have these conversations with elected officials. But yet, there's still people that just sit on their couch on a computer and want to criticize us when we're actually the ones showing.
We are almost always doing some. I mean, how many weekends are we gone during the year? So much that we might get divorced.
Let me ask my divorce lawyer. Right?
Exactly.
Well, and again, we can say it till we're blue in the face. But first and foremost, MDHA is for the members.
Correct.
Right.
With the hearts and minds of all Minnesota deer hunters, I guess.
I mean, I wouldn't say first and foremost we're for the members. I would say first and foremost we are for Minnesota's wild deer and deer hunter, right? However, what guides our choices in trying to accomplish that goal is our member input, right? Because if you're not a member, you don't have a voice within our organization, right? It's the same thing where, you can bitch about election results all you want, but if you don't show up and vote, your voice means nothing, right? So if you don't show up and help steer an organization like MDHA, you have absolutely zero right to complain.
Right. And when you do with your voice on social media, it may feel like you're doing something, but you're really not.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ones that put on there, I will never contribute to your organization. Well, bud, you just did.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it.
You follow us.
Right.
You commented. Mm-hmm. So
guess what? More people are seeing it.
Exactly.
Right. Algorithm loves that.
So we're going to say thank you.
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah.
Whether you want to admit it or not, you contributed, you donated.
Thanks for spreading our message.
You're a part of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and we also had quite a few people reach out wanting to get one of those wolf signs.
That post sold more wolf signs than I think any event we've had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did. Yeah. So, and those will be arriving at your doorsteps within days.
Right.
There you go.
Please display them proudly at the end of your driveway.
Yeah.
Or wherever you would like.
Right. If you don't have them in your bedroom, put them on the wall. Dean has one in his bedroom.
I do.
Jared looked at you like, do you really?
I was trying to make up a joke about how that's like his mattress or something. He sleeps in a cardboard box.
Pretty much. Yep. Underneath the bridge.
Yeah.
Them ones are more waterproof than just a regular box.
They really are. And you know what? They keep the color. They won't fade.
Even when you pee on them every night.
They don't fade.
They're great signs. You can order them on our website.
Yeah. Come with the stand.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, pretty sturdy stand too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty decent.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I love driving. I drive a lot around the state, all over, and everywhere I go, I can find a handful of those.
They're everywhere.
Yep.
I mean, it's surprising. I mean, I'm always surprised when I see one in like just
Winona or
right. Or like,
do you even know what a wolf is down here?
Right. Right.
Yeah, we go down here.
All the time.
Hey, we can't make fun of Winona.
Up north, we call those coyotes. Coyotes, whatever.
But yeah, no, Day on the Hill was great. That post did get a lot of attention. And yeah, if you can see that post and see that room full of people and know the conversations that we had and still think that we're not doing anything for deer and deer hunters in the state of Minnesota, I don't think there's anything in the world that could change your mind.
No.
So,
Right. I would just say if you really don't think that the folks at MDHA do anything, just tag along sometime for even 6 months, 3 months, and see and go the places that Jared and everybody else goes.
are you telling them to do like a ride along with me?
Yeah, like the cops have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might not be as exciting, but it's something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For 6 months.
I mean, if they really want to see how much traveling and how much,
I just say join, be a member.
Yeah. Right.
But
hey, or if
You'll
you want to
definitely
do a
hear
ride
more.
along, we can do that too.
we'll come up with something.
yeah, exactly. We'll strap them to the roof or something.
There's lots of road trips. Trust me.
There's too many road trips.
Mm-hmm.
Got another one in a couple days here.
Right, and you're going down southern Minnesota, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Good folks down there.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's all we'll say about them.
Yeah, we don't want to give them too much of an ego.
No, not really. We already mentioned them once on the podcast.
Well, I think that's about covers it for today, boys.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I
so.
think that's good. So, Second Amendment. Keep an eye on the Minnesota.
Yeah, the bills that have been proposed.
Right.
Again, they're probably not going anywhere.
Right.
Very, very likely that they will not go anywhere, but let your senators and reps know anyway where you stand on the issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And check out the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
They're the folks that are doing a lot of the legwork on this.
Yeah.
And our lobbyist is working alongside them. So support them, support us. We're working to get it done.
Conservation group for sure.
Definitely doing more than sitting on the couch.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. You can do a lot more in one MDHA meeting than you could in a lifetime of Facebook comments.
Exactly. Turns out they don't really do much of anything. I mean, we laugh at them a lot.
I laugh a lot.
A lot.
I canceled my Netflix and everything just because I get my entertainment through.
When we
Facebook
have
comments.
posts like that, I mean, you can, it's glorious.
I love, and what's amazing is Facebook, people think, oh, they just block all my comments. Facebook blocks a lot before we even get to them.
right?
Right.
Because there's been some, it's like, why was that one blocked?
I actually have gone through a number of times and unblocked.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
some of the comments.
yeah, Facebook's AI, I don't know, sometimes makes its decisions based on weird things.
And then certain people can see other comments that others can't, which is
Right.
really weird. So I don't know if it's your permissions or, it's the algorithm, which is sometimes a little bit goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho.
But until next time,
Right.
tune in, subscribe, like, follow.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Right. To our worldwide podcast.
That's right.
Worldwide.
Worldwide. We definitely have listeners in South Africa.
We're making it big.
That's right. Go
And
big or go home.
we are out. That was not the right button.
I kind of dig it though.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association has been building our hunting and conservation legacy over the past 40 plus years through habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation in Minnesota for Minnesota.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and Wolf Report proudly sponsor this podcast. However, please note that the opinions, topics, and guests featured may not necessarily align with the views, beliefs, goals, or mission of our sponsors.
Need help and don't know where to turn? First call for help, 211, connects you to free confidential support. including dedicated veteran services for housing, food, and mental health, available 24/7. Just dial 211. Help starts with your first call.